Hi everybody, it's Mrs. Cassill and I'm here to explain option A, movie physics. Now this might sound like an easy assignment to do, but you actually have to go into incredible depth to explain the physics in a movie scene of your choice from the movie of your choice. So there's several components. The first is an instructional page. You absolutely should read this first. So just to get things going here, here's my favorite movie physics scene of all time, meaning it's the worst, right? Here's Legolas. He goes, grabs a ride on a horse. That is not how you get on a horse. So what do you know? There's your first example of how things do not work. So you might take a clip like this, either one that the physics is clearly broken and analyze it, or you could find a scene that you really like that you think is realistic, that makes sense, and then work your way through the physics to show that that is accurate or possible, or just how strong a character would have to be to do something like that. So the rest of this page explains the length of your project and the other components. So you will need to do four things. You're going to need to find your clip on YouTube and submit it in a discussion so we can all watch it. You will be analyzing your scene and either writing written analysis or creating Google Slides that walk through your analysis of the scene. You'll include a physics ranking that's down below. You'll see that at the bottom of this page. Then the third thing is you're going to record a brief, as in 5 minutes or less, presentation of your physics analysis of your scene. You don't need to show your clip, but you're going to present. We would have done that in class in person, and you can do that here on our flip grid. Then your fourth and final step is you need to watch someone else's presentation in there and comment on what you think they did. So the physics analysis, there's a bunch of information here, and I don't want to read through all of it because you can read it yourself. But the idea is you need to utilize the physics you've learned this semester, which is motion, forces, momentum, its conservation, and the change of momentum in a collision where there are forces involved. You want to be as quantitative as possible. So that might mean looking at the timestamps on the video to gauge time, looking up information to figure out what kinds of distances are involved, or looking at what's the mass of the car that might be in a movie scene that you've picked to use. So try to be as numerical and factual as possible. That means research. You'll want to kind of sketch out your scene. That should be in your written analysis or in your Google slide. You can draw a picture and then take a snapshot of that and put it in your presentation, or you can make a digital diagram. It's entirely up to you. The quality of your physics is what is actually going to be what carries you through this project. All right, your recorded presentation. You please, don't commit any personal acts of piracy, obviously, but if you can find it on the interwebs, then, that's on somebody else. Give an overview of your scene in your presentation. You don't have to show it in your recorded presentation, but give a brief description like I just did above. So Legolas in Lord of the Rings in the Two Towers is standing in the battlefield and a horse rides by and he just grabs hold of that horse and by some miracle is vaulted into the saddle. So turn in your clip, explain that physics, and then the rest of this sort of explains the other details of the project, including the rating system right here, which you can read and make your determination about how you'd rate the physics in your clip. And then lastly, here's an example. If you do everything that is in the example that's here, this will earn a perfect score on this assignment and would give you your maximum grade possible. So please read this. This could have been turned into a slideshow presentation instead. It doesn't have to be a mini essay like this is for it to meet the requirements of this project. So it's up to you whether you choose to write your argument out or if you make your slides, right? But please read this. This is a perfect example of what kinds of things you need to do in order to earn the maximum score possible, all right? So that's your first step, is to look at this instructional page. So I want to go back for a second to the module so that you can see the other components that are part of this project right here. Okay, so you've got your scene. This is a discussion where you'll upload your scene. This is where you'll turn in your written summary or your slides, depending on what you choose to do. Here's how you link to the Flipgrid to do your recording. And then here's a link that will take you to the Flipgrid to view other people's posts, right? The only one I think you might need some technical help with is submitting your presentation on Flipgrid. If you've never used this before, it's super slick and easy. So there's just a little reminder here about how to do it. I'll show you how to do that, and then I'll end with my favorite example a student has made for me over time. So here you go. If you click that link, it should take you directly to the movie physics presentation page for Northwestern High School STEM physics. If it doesn't, please reach out to your teacher. So all you have to do is you click record a response. So it asks you to join the discussion. Use your Google. That's your school account. That's what you're doing. So you're going to log in with Google. It gives you some advice right here. It's not going to work right now for me because I'm already recording, but that's why it's saying, hey, your camera, you need some help. But what will happen is a screen will pop up right here. It'll ask you to, allow you to use your camera, allow you to use the microphones. You might need to click some boxes and buttons like this, but then you'll be able to record your response. There's some options for things you can play around with to cover your face or to change what your own camera projection looks like. You can share your screen while you're recording, which is a great way to include your slides or your written analysis if that's something that you've done. So I would absolutely encourage you to share your screen while you're in there. And then it's up to you how you display your face. So you'll see that so far, 0 responses. It's exciting. I can't wait to see this space fill up with things. All right. So the last thing I want to end with in this video is one of my favorite examples of all time. This is from a former student, and it's an analysis of the physics of the falling off the cliff scene in The Revenant. So the student got super into it. You can see he's got a GIF of the exact scene in the eye of Leonardo DiCaprio right here. He rated it pretty good physics based on the rating system that you'll see in there. He embedded the clip in his slides. If you make a slideshow, that's a great way to do that. If you type your written analysis, that's a great, you can drop the link in there. Make sure that your teacher grading this can find the right clip really easily. So he also then took a GIF of exactly the scene he wanted to analyze. And he did some research about this. So here's how the scene was actually filmed. The actor was on a mechanical horse, and it was all blue screen so that they could basically cut him out and insert a background on there. And then here is where he began to work through his analysis of the scene. It's not all fitting on the screen that I've got right here, so I'll leave the presentation for a second. So he figured out, here's all the stuff that he wanted to know. What he wanted to figure out was, what's the force on the tree, and therefore, due to Newton's third law, the force on poor Leonardo DiCaprio, who's rocking his way off the cliff right here. All right. So you can see the rest of his presentation goes through those calculations. He typed those in. You could write them out. He did thorough research. What kind of horse is it? What's the mass of that type of horse? He used the frames in the video clip to determine the time that the horse and the actor were falling and in motion. He did some estimating to figure out, how far did he actually go? And then you can see here that he calculated what was the final velocity when he hit the tree, how far did he fall, and then he made some estimations about what kind of tree it was. And then he did a hard bit of calculations here that he typed out to figure out, what's the height of that tree that he fell down to the ground, about 5 stories. Or how tall is the cliff? Is about 5 stories. So, and then he did the analysis, is this person going to survive? And he found a historical example of somebody who survived a fall in similar circumstances from a much greater height than Leonardo DiCaprio. But in calculating, so even if the tree wasn't there, he calculated how much force, and he used some other data to figure out, okay, what would the force be for, it to eliminate the main character of the movie. And then he did further analysis. This is from a student who really loved this scene and really worked through it. And then he went about a different way. He asked new questions as he went through the presentation. So this is a great example of how to do this project. This is beyond thorough for what you might need to do, but sometimes it helps to see an example that's amazing, right? So here's a free body diagram. Many of you will want to do that for a scene. Here's some further questions, and he ends with the rating again. And then also, an incredibly important part, he cited his sources because he did pull up real information. He borrowed real images. He used some historical accounts in here. So he had a page where he included his sources. All right, you should do this. Um, so here we go. This is my perfect example for you. I think that it's a great example of the best that any of you will accomplish. And if you do better than this, I totally want to see it. Even if you're not in my class, I want to see it. All right. So please have fun with this project. You know, one of our goals in designing this is that you'd be able to choose something that you would really enjoy, and that is absolutely true. We want you to enjoy this. If you pick this project, pick a scene that you really love, a movie that you really love, and see if you can figure out, does it actually work? All right. So good luck, everybody. Reach out to your teachers if you need help, and have fun.